Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this afternoon's Norfolk Community Safety Partnership Scrutiny Sub-Panel meeting. First off, I'll go through the normal procedures that we do. So welcome everyone to the meeting today. Just go over some general housekeeping to start us off before we get into the meeting proper. This meeting is being held here in person at County Hall, but is also being streamed live on the County Council's YouTube channel, and the recording of which will be available to view afterwards. We're not expecting a fire alarm test during the meeting, but if it does sound, we must evacuate County Hall, and in the event of such an emergency, please make your way to the nearest exit and meet at the muster point, which is located on the car park out the front of the building. Just a reminder about microphones, please. When talking, please make sure you're switched on and speak towards. It tells the cameras in the room to focus in on you. And obviously, when you finished, make sure you turn it off, and it will train in onto the next person speaking. So to start the agenda proper, item 1 is to receive apologies and details of any substitute members. Come to you, Megan, please.
Thank you, Chair. I have apologies today from Councillor James Easter, Councillor David Bills, Councillor Stuart Dark, who is being substituted by Councillor Michael Shennery of Horsborough, and Councillor Tristan Ashby and his substitute, Councillor Helen Crane.
Thank you, and thank you, Michael, again for substituting. Always good that we keep our numbers up with the substitutes as available, so thank you for coming in. Minutes of the last meeting, it was held back on the 31st of July. Am I okay to sign those as a true record of last time's proceedings, please? All okay, thank you. Members to declare any interests. We don't often have any, but if there are, no. I have no updates from myself as chairman for this one, so that moves us on to page 10 of the agenda, and that is the Safer Streets Summer Initiative, a triple SI, which for most of us is some nice place in the countryside that's protected, but this is a different triple SI because we love a good acronym. Sorry, I do love my acronyms. So. Who's presented this one? This is Liam. Thank you. Over to you, please.
Thank you very much. So I'm going to talk us through Norfolk's approach to the safer triple SSI, as you call it. We've locally called it Safer Norfolk, just because it rolls off the tongue a little better. In April this year, the Home Secretary wrote to all police and crime commissioners up and down the country to ask police and crime commissioners to look to maximise opportunities to work in partnership across their areas, with a real focus on those partnerships working to respond to street crime, antisocial behaviour, retail crime in towns and city centres, those areas that are most affected by those types of crimes. This work was designed to complement neighbourhood policing guarantee and also the antisocial behaviour hotspot policing, which is a £1 million annual grant fund that goes up until the end of this financial year, to make sure that there's a lot of coordination going in response to that. Police and crime commissioners were directed to lead and develop these plans, and locally, obviously, the Norfolk Police and Crime Commissioner benefits from the Norfolk Community Safety Partnership, which was able to, which is a ready-made partnership that is able to bring together that plan and deliver it on their behalf. For Norfolk. So Norfolk's plan, we were tasked with the identification of areas. Norfolk's plan identified Norwich, Great Yarmouth, Kings Lynn, Diss, Dereham, Thetford, Goulston, Downham Market, Holt, Sheringham and Cromer as areas that we wanted to focus on. Those were the areas that we had identified as experiencing higher levels of antisocial behaviour and crime that met a specific threshold. To be really clear, that didn't mean there was no response going in anywhere else across the county. That was where we were providing information and reporting to the Home Office. We Our plan had a really strong focus on enforcement and partnership working. So police and district councils had the opportunity to use their enforcement powers, and then the whole partnership was coming together to deliver a range of different interventions as part of the partnership working activity. Under enforcement, there was quite a lot of operations that are detailed within the report that I won't go through, but just to provide a quick list of OpFocus, Operation Servitor, Operation Octane, Vigilant, and then, as I discussed, local authority enforcement as well. In partnership, there were a lot of different areas that we've utilised to deliver our partnership plan. So the retail crime reduction partnerships, our nighttime economy working group that looks to respond to the nighttime economy issues, the have funds to holiday activities fund, the targeted youth support service, space youth, so a focus on youth activities, CGL outreach, so drug and alcohol support services, and community alcohol partnerships, all featured within the partnership response. In terms of our delivery, it was July, August and September that we were providing interventions or providing and reporting back to the Home Office specifically on delivery. I'm sure you will be aware that protests over the summer meant there was a resource strain on many organisations, and that has been a factor within our capacity to be able to respond. But I think our partners here would agree, we're quite proud of the level and scale of intervention that we were able to deliver over the summer, regardless of that additional strain. In terms of enforcement activities, we've been able to identify the enforcement of public space protection orders, PSPOs, the use of CPWs and CPNs, the patrol activity, so specific police patrols, but also within our partner agencies, they have the ability to have wardens, for example, who are able to patrol and identify antisocial behaviour. 48 arrests were made over the summer in relation to retail crime alone, and there were 4,200 patrol hours committed by the police. In addition, youth work was a really strong focus within our plan. We delivered positive activities that are detailed at length within the report, and the focus was that our belief that prevention was better than cure in terms of responding to antisocial behaviour and crime. We coupled all of this activity with communications as well. We thought it was really important that alongside undertaking this activity to enforce laws and provide preventative activity, we needed to communicate to the public that we were undertaking these activities, and so we had a campaign aspect to our plan, which some high level pieces of high level figures were nearly 20,000 views of the materials that we were putting out, which was really positive. And we also held a community safety survey at the same time, which we received over 750 responses to. The PCC was obviously very much involved within this piece of work as well. So the PCC combined her role and awareness of it to raise awareness of the activity that we were undertaking. Undertook visits to some of the projects that were being undertaken. Met with political figures from the Home Office to promote the work that we were doing locally, and then also completed a webinar where we were able to raise awareness of the activity that our partners had been delivering over the summer. So overall, we delivered a cohesive and effective response for Norfolk in response to the Home Secretary's request. In terms of legacy, there is a slightly better named activity coming for the winter called Winter of Action, following a really similar theme of wanting to prevent retail crime, but also that focus on community safety as well. So we will be being asked to engage with the Home Office in a really similar way, and we'll be using the same methodology as we've set out here. And I think that colleagues would agree that undertaking this activity has given us a really strong ability to evidence the impact that our community safety focused interventions have been able to have in Norfolk over the summer period. So yeah, over to you.
Yes, thank you. I think the proliferance of social media with retail crime is very much a focus. You see sort of almost gangs, not in Norfolk, I hasten to add, but not thus far. I've not seen it in Norfolk, but sort of gangs of youths, almost ferally going through a store and just stealing en masse. I've also seen videos online of someone who decided that every bottle of alcoholic drink in Tesco was to be smashed on the floor, and whether that was done as a crime or a mental health cry for help, I don't know. You can't tell. You see the crimes being perpetrated. You don't necessarily see the outcomes because no, that's not a video. That's not of interest. And youth are seeing this stuff happen. So actually getting that message out via the social media. You said you'd had, 20,000 impressions here? To sort of counter, what will happen is so important these days because if they see it being done with no repercussions, because you don't see the repercussions on the video very often. You see security guards, in stores and things just standing back and almost letting this stuff happen because that's what they're advised almost to do, gather evidence and stay away from being directly in the line of fire, if you like. But you'll get copycat, they got away with it or appeared to get away with it in the video. Let's do that. It's something to do. So diversionary tactics, I can absolutely see the point of, but getting that message out on media of what the repercussions of it are, to me, are critical. But I'll open it up to colleagues for any thoughts or comments about the triple SI. I'm now starting to call it that. Sue, please.
Thank you, Chair. I was just intrigued as to the list of towns that were identified. I'm from Aylsham, and obviously I thought perhaps Aylsham Reefham weren't big enough to be considered, but I noticed Holt was on the list, but not Fakenham or North Walsham. Could you give me an idea of why that was?
Quite simply, it's based upon information and sort of direction we were given from the Home Office. So we were given sort of scale limits for the towns and city centres that we were supposed to look to be focusing on, and then it was also kind of crime and antisocial behaviour thresholds. Not specific thresholds that we were given, but it was a focus on those areas that were most affected by crime and antisocial behaviour. So it was kind of an analytical piece of work that we were looking to do. I think the other factor to bear in mind is the reporting to the Home Office. We would be looking at all of those different interventions and the capacity within our organisations to respond. So it's kind of it's a really, really tricky one to be able to cover every single town in Norfolk. Like I said at the outset, it doesn't mean that nothing was happening in Aylsham, in Reefham. There was a lot of activity. It's just that it wasn't reported as part of this process.
Thanks, I understand. And when you say Norwich was one of the areas, did that include the suburbs, or were there any suburbs that were looked at specifically?
So it was a focus on the city centre. Because of how our plan worked, we talked a lot about youth intervention. So that youth intervention was focused less on those young people that lived in the city centre and was very aware that people travel into kind of business hubs across the county. So the youth activity was not targeted specifically in the city centre. It was all around the suburbs of Norwich. It was in the suburbs as well. When it comes to specifics of Norwich, it was the city centre, the kind of business-focused areas, including Magdalen Street as well, which was a big focus of that. But yeah, it was much more focused on those crimes affecting towns and city centres.
Jade, please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the report. It was a really interesting read, and actually loved all the visuals as well and breaking down everything. I've got two questions. Firstly, I'm a little bit biased around the youth side of things, as I was actually a part of the Unity and UCAN work and actually got to see firsthand all the positive activities. And actually, it was also really great to see as well all the work that's gone into that, especially considering how high that percentage was, like 55% of people believing that the crime and antisocial behaviour was linked to drugs. So it's been great to see all that collaborative working and partnership working. Again, a little bit biased for my Great Yarmouth area, but is there a plan for the continued funding? Has there been like a discussion yet about where that's going to be spent and which activities are going to be ongoing? Because I know the ones that we did have in St George's Park for Great Yarmouth was really well received, and I think it got too big of a success and they had to put pause on it. So it'd be really good to kind of get some insight into what your thoughts are for the continued funding. And then I'll come back to the second one, if that's all right.
So funding, yes, very tricky question. So for this specific project, we didn't receive any direct funding from the Home Office to deliver any of the interventions. So we looked to be inventive, for want of better phrasing, about the what we included within our project. So we've utilised projects funded by the Serious Violence Duty. I don't have an answer for you about whether that will continue past April 2026. Similarly, we provided, so the Targeted Youth Support Service, that's funded via the Serious Violence Duty, but also County Council's services. Some of the other projects, I can't recall the funding sources, but things like the HAF is a recurrent funding, so that would look to continue. It's a really important question as a kind of bigger picture that you raise in terms of funding pots that the Community Safety Partnership can access beyond, I think, April 2020, 2026. There's an unclear picture, I think it's probably fair to say, for funding things like youth projects. We'd want to continue to do it, but we need to have the funding resources accessible to do so.
Can I just come back onto that one?
Of course, yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Obviously, you've got the different priority areas, and I know Great Yarmouth is a priority area in regard to the antisocial behaviour, and I think it is really important to continue that partnership work. And so will there be discussions between the different partners, whether it be like the local council, the youth provisions, of where we can continue if possible?
Yeah, absolutely. Our intention is to continue to provide support. Definitely within Great Yarmouth, it's an area that I work closely with James to speak and understand the kind of key issues that are affecting Great Yarmouth is absolutely one of those.
And then is it okay if I do my second question? Yeah. So the second one is around the retail crime. You mentioned a figure 47 retail crimes. Was that prosecutions or was that arrests during that period of time? Because the reason I ask that is because I know it's really difficult to prosecute with that type of crime. There's lots of complex issues and the value of the crime as well. I'd just like to ask, like, how would it be measured and evidenced about the outcomes for this particular area, especially considering, like, from the report, the kind of major concern is around security and the feeling of being secure in the town centre.
Thank you. So the figure that I referenced earlier, 48 arrests. So 48 arrests specifically in the months of July, August, September, in those locations that I've already referenced. I don't have the figure for prosecutions off the back of that, I'm afraid. I don't know, Zoe, you might want to...
We can get to it, but I haven't got it in front of me.
I don't have the data to tell you right now, but I think the thing that I'd want to rest assured is that there will be prosecutions, whether they might be kind of orders put onto offenders or community resolutions, those type of things. So there'll be a range. We just don't have the information for you today.
Can I just come back?
Absolutely,
The reason I asked that was because, like, reading the report, the concern around security was actually higher than the loss of property. And I just think there needs to be that focus on a deterrent, because if somebody's coming in and then they're not getting arrested, or they get arrested and then let go, that's why then people would just come back, because there's no deterrent there, because they'll get a caution or be arrested and then released. So we need to kind of like focus on that aspect.
Hopefully the tech works. There we go. First time using. Yeah, so absolutely what Liam says, where we can prosecute, we will prosecute. There's obviously a number of different diversions that can come out of that for first-time offenders, etc. What I don't have is that breakdown for you here, so I wouldn't want to misquote, but there are a number of different outcomes. We have recently released our retail crime strategy from a policing perspective, which was yet to introduce to the partnership. And that will very much be a focus, obviously, as we go into the winter. I'm sure you know, as we go into the winter, we will have campaigns around retail theft in those high volume areas. Excuse me. And also by reassurance, obviously, we've got one of the highest, if not the highest, positive outcome rates for retail crime in the country.
Is that, can I ask a question off the back of that last comment?
Yep.
Is that off the back of a low base anyway, or did we have a particular problem and that's improved, or?
Again, it's not my area of expertise, but it's certainly been an area of focus around some of the constabularies, things around op investigate, etc., in order to generally raise those detection rates up. Okay,
thank you. Liam, you want to come in as well?
Yeah, really briefly. So in terms of the deterrent, there's more to it. So the business improvement districts manage retail crime reduction partnerships in Great Yarmouth, Norwich and Kings Lynn. So within those they have something called a disc app. So that gives organisations, so shops, the ability to talk directly to the police about, and the police to talk directly to shops about prolific perpetrators or offenders, and there's a kind of a two-way discussion and the ability to identify criminals that are affecting the retail sector. So there is a really positive piece of work between businesses and the police to identify those offenders, and there is, you know, a definite deterrent within that. And the other thing I was going to highlight was our partnership has developed a piece of work, calling it Places and Spaces, but it's really about this continuation of the SSSI, the Safer Norfolk programme. It focuses on working with our district councils and police to really identify those areas most affected by community safety issues. It's expanded beyond just retail crime, but obviously that's a factor within it. We will, through that work, look to identify themes across Norfolk and look as a community safety partnership to deliver interventions that directly support our partners to respond to those issues. So yeah, there's quite a bit within there.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, and Chief Inspector, you still got your mic on. I don't know if the camera's still looking at you or not, but not to worry. That's all right. I'm mine. Oh, sorry, I've got Mike want to come in and then Sarah. I don't know which way around it was, but I'll go Mike and then Sarah. Go for it, Mike.
Okay. Street safety and it's very, very difficult. My ward is Bothorpe. As you know, we've had the protests at the hotels. How much has the protests out there skewed perceptions of safety? I personally don't think Bothorpe is any less safe than it was. I feel perfectly safe walking around our streets, but I get lots of emails from residents who say, particularly on weekends, they're afraid to go to the shops and lots of other things. So, and I think it's a largely perceptual thing, but how do you think that has skewed things?
Yeah, really tricky question to answer. In terms of direct evidence, I think that it will nationally be having an impact on people's conscience about, particularly within the area of Bothwell. We've got kind of some information that comes through us by partners to sort of tell us about issues that are coming to the fore, but it's not something that we can kind of really quantify directly. So yeah, there is that evidence. We're going to come on in a little while to talk a bit more about community adhesion and some of the work that we're going to do to respond directly to that issue to make improvements. But yeah, I think it's a really tricky one to be able to quantify, other than saying I think there has been an impact.
I think given the stats within the report, the ASB, I mean, when traders and things were asked, ASB, how is it affecting their business? ASB was at 40% and direct shoplifting was rated 20%. So actually the sort of ASB outside your local shop or wherever it's going on is going to put off more customers than the shoplifters are. You know, that's the stats that's within the report. So, you know, if you've got that fear that going down to the local shops is, you know, loads of youths hanging around creating problems, you don't go down the local shop, and then the local shopkeeper obviously suffers as a result. So I think that's something that the diversionary tactics are obviously going to have a real direct benefit of, because those youths, instead of hanging around being a nuisance, are going to be somewhere else being diverted. But it's an intensive, in terms of cost, to get that result. And that the stats say that is that true reflection, or do we think that the shop keepers and owners, retail premises owners who have responded, is that just those who have responded that find that because they've got a problem in their locality, or is it, is that, do the stats back up what the response has been, shall we say?
So I think it's fair to say there's a very interesting correlation, isn't there, between fear of crime and actual crime. I think we all know that, don't we? One of the things that my problem solvers work on, so we have a team of problem solvers who use a College of Policing methodology. They work with partners. We did some exercises, didn't we, under the places and spaces. And in order to treat the different parts of what you've described, we are looking at problem solving plans that do a lot of those different things. So, for example, you referenced around the social media campaigns. Some of that is around to tell the public what we are doing as a partnership in order to create that feeling of safety. If I can give you one particular example, which was where we'd had reports around the market in Norwich. We did an intensification period over a number of weekends where we spoke to the traders, spoke to the public, gave some reassurance, managed and dealt with those problems with the relevant powers, etc., in order to effectively clear the area. As you say, that then becomes quite a difficult thing to keep that area clear and quite intensive, but that's where the problem solving comes in. So that's where we're working together around things like environmental visual audits, which is where partners will all walk together and to see, I don't know whether you're familiar with things like the broken windows theory, etc. So it's a lot more of a holistic approach, engaging with our targeted youth services and the outreach workers, so where we've got areas of children, so that we can engage with them at that primary level. So not just those children who might be causing problems, but those children who are there and need to be made safe, feel safe, but also need to understand what the rules are, if that makes sense. So it's a very holistic approach that we're taking.
Yep, indeed, thank you. Gavin, you want to come in, and then I've got Sarah next.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just in the point about people's perceptions of safety and how they're feeling. This year, Liam and the team ran a community safety survey. We probably got more responses this year than we have in the past, significantly more. Probably isn't yet enough to probably really drill down. and understand reliably how people feel and are perceiving things at a local level. But it is something we'll repeat. And the intention is actually that we working in partnership, that we really grow the response to that survey. And I think so in the future, I think we'll be able to answer that question with a greater degree of kind of robustness in terms of the data that we've got. But I raise it because I think it's really incumbent upon us all really to get that, when that survey is live, to get that out there so we get a real feel. Because I think in terms of community tensions, it's something for the last 5 years we've been really well aware of, is having that really up-to-date, strong database, that kind of evidence base of where tensions are, and understanding that in order to respond kind of more robustly.
Thank you. Sarah.
Thank you. I mean, the thing I hear about a lot in North Norfolk, there is some ASB in one of our towns in particular, and I won't say where, but shoplifting, shop crime, retail crime seems to be causing more and more concern in our towns. And we seem to be finding a lot of people with CCTV then posting pictures of the people they think are responsible. And I say think are, because we need to be careful about these things. Do we have any evidence of those 47 crimes you talked about that people were arrested for, or potential crimes that people were arrested for? Were they clustered in one area, or were they spread out across? Or is that something you'd rather talk about at the end of the meeting?
I do have the data. I don't have it at the front of my mind, so I'd have to come back to you and give you an answer on that one. I'm afraid. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just concerned that it seems to be getting more and more prolific, and not just in North Norfolk, but in a lot of places across the country. People seem to think it's all right to just go into shops and help themselves to things. And it's a very worrying trend.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd completely agree with you on that factor, that kind of, especially via social media, seeing that and kind of national reports that have come out that have sort of alluded to that fact too. So it is it's the reason why it's a factor within our community safety partnership plan, and why we want to focus on it and be able to respond to it and have put this effort into it. So absolutely, it's kind of one of those areas that is definitely it's not an emerging threat. It's always been there, but it's something that we're more and more concerned by.
It does seem to be more out of hand at the moment.
Yes, I think.
I'm not talking about in Norfolk. I'm talking about across the country as a whole. Sorry, I should make that clear. And I think it's yeah. I don't know where people have got that from. Can I just ask one other question, please? Mm-hmm. You talked about there's going to be a campaign in the winter months. Mm. Will you be focusing on similar areas, or will you be looking at different areas during the winter months?
So the communications we've had from the Home Office have very much focused on retail crime, continuation on retail crime, towns and city centres. The Christmas month, so our local spin and sort of part of our consideration in that has been around the nighttime economy as well, and safety within that setting. So I think that yes, it's very much kind of a continuation, but also are there other localized community safety messages that we want to be getting across, and I think the nighttime economy might be one of those. Sorry,
maybe I wasn't clear. I was meaning the areas that... The areas.
So I haven't had the
criteria
direction from the Home Office officially. It's not going to differ drastically. We'd always make sure that we review the areas that we're looking at based on the information that we've got available. Do we need to expand it, decrease it, whatever? And the criteria, and like you say, nighttime economy could be make places very different. Sure. Okay, thank you very much.
And I've got Gavin wanting to come in as well.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'll work with him on this one, but I just wanted to explain a little bit about the criteria and how we select the areas, because It is primarily using kind of national data sets, but there is an element of local determination throughout this process, and I want to be really clear about that. So in terms of the SSSI, and obviously that will roll into the winter campaign, we were presented with a retail data set, a retail crime data set that really identified those areas. We didn't, though, just use that data set. So there was a wider analysis undertaken, including with policing colleagues and SBOS, and also working with the partners around the table to basically test whether those areas themselves, the ones that the Home Office identified, had to be included. However, there was a process of identifying any other outliers across the various districts where it was felt that actually there was such significant concern that maybe there could be a wider expansion of the activity. Obviously, that had to be considered also with the wider resource implications of undertaking that piece of work, because what we kind of established through SSSI was kind of the framework in which we work kind of multi-agency in terms of coordinating that activity and aligning that activity. And once it is existing activity, there still had to be that wider coordination, which did take resource from different areas. So it sounds as though moving forward in terms of the winter campaign, that will continue. But I think want to be really clear, I think we see this, and I think the PCC said that this morning when she said before the Home Office announced the winter initiative, we always saw this as as kind of the platform and the approach to take moving forward. And in terms of identifying towns, I think that would be based on, again, we have a wide range of analytics. We're really up to date with data across community safety, across policing, across, for example, across the councils. An area like ASB, for example, we've been developing that data set for some time, because I think previously we were pretty much dependent on, for example, police data on ASB, where actually it didn't give us that rich picture that you probably got maybe from reports into kind of local authorities. So we've taken a lot of work's been done to make those data sets more robust and more meaningful. So we would have been using those to build on this. We will go into winter using that methodology, but we will use this approach and our own data and evidence base as we go forwards. And I think really in terms of this, I just want to again point out, I think, you know, there's while we coordinate, it's very much there's a significant role, I think, from district councils to feed into that process and identifying. Obviously, we've got district councils colleagues here, and I know James was involved in the process. We'll probably have to talk a bit about being involved in that process, where you're kind of locally identifying kind of key areas.
You know, I'm pleased to hear that going, because it's great for government to say the stats indicate that big places have got a big problem and that's where the money's got to go. But if we've got a smaller place that doesn't meet the criteria in terms of population, a problem in that locality is going to be amplified because of a smaller community. And it's absolutely right and proper that we've got some flexibility to focus the work that we do on the problem that we have, because it might not be the same as the problem in Southampton or Manchester or wherever else, you know. So really, really good to hear that. Actually, you mentioned the fact that we've got some district officer colleagues with us, and I wondered if there was anything you wanted to add at this point. I'll come, James, put his hand up straight away. Come to you first, please.
Yeah, happy to come
Mr.
in.
Wilson.
Yeah, I think in terms of the initiative around the SSSI, I think it gave us a bit, because we obviously provide monthly updates and quarterly updates anyway into our locality areas. It gave some real definition to that, which I think is really good. It gave some serious sets of questions for us to answer around the key topics. So I think that gave us, and I think that's what Liam and the colleagues have picked up on, that in terms of moving forward with the place idea, that we will have that structured information. So I think we've learned lessons from the SSSI, and we can only get better at that. I think it gives us a real clarity around what information we provide that's useful to help facilitate some of those decisions. Where should we put our actions now? Where are our hotspots? We know where they are locally, but not always necessarily have all that data to hand to be able to prove it. I think this helps us do that. So I think, yeah, it learned lots of lessons learned, I think, during this process, because suddenly we're having to provide maybe different sets of data that we're not used to providing, working with police colleagues to make sure we get that information, so that, because a lot of the work we do generally is joined up with the police anyway, in terms of, particularly in Yarmouth around the PSPO enforcement work, is we wouldn't be able to do it without police colleagues. So there is a reliance on the two parties coming together to get that data set right. So I think, but yeah, so moving forward, but I think it's really good. It was I think probably my feedback would be it was very last minute from government. It's like, crikey, okay, we're suddenly got to do this, but we're used to that, as you know. So I think it was really good once we've got into the swing of it, and I think it'll get better as we move forward into maybe other initiatives and the thing that Liam was talking about, that structured approach. So yeah,
the overarching approach to this, if you declare somewhere a public space protection order, for those public watching doesn't know what one of those is, if you declare one and the problem goes from where it is to somewhere else, you then got a problem somewhere else. This initiative hopefully will alleviate some of that problem, because you'll deal with the cause, not just moving people away from, but as you say, it's something that the district and other authorities have got to work in collaboration, because it's no good saying there's a problem in the park, we'll ban everyone from the park, because then where do they go and cause a problem? Oh, they're causing a problem in the town centre next, So it's got to be, worked.
Absolutely.
In a
and a PSPO, we're lucky our PSPO is borough-wide, so moving them outside of the borough, but again, we don't want to do that, which I'm sure, I'll just clarify that before I say it, colleagues, elsewhere.
Neighbouring boroughs take note.
Yeah, but I think from my point of view, it's around it's the enforcement, that's great, but then actually we've got loads of support there as well in terms of homeless outreach, CGL, all the other guys that are doing that. So it's solving the problem, not necessarily the enforcement may be the tool to get you in to deal with some of the individuals, but all the other stuff needs to go in there as well, so they just don't work. Because enforcement alone is not the only, it doesn't solve the entire problem.
Well, you just sort of crack one generation and then the next generation comes
Absolutely
along. Continues. Councillor Sands, did I notice a hand up from yourself? Sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to ask a quick question. I mean, retail crime is a big problem, but how has that been reflected in the rise of violence related to retail crime? Because I know there's a lot of people working in shops these days themselves wear body cams and things. Has there been any trends or noticeable increases in violent crimes as related to retail crimes?
Locally, it's not something we've reported via this process. So again, I'm afraid I can't answer you that question. I can only give you the information that's sort of in the public space, which is that nationally it's a more prominent issue. There's legislation looking to directly tackle that, and we should be getting a better and stronger picture of that moving forwards. And it's a kind of a really important thing that we want to be responding to as part of this work.
Thank you. I've got Chief Inspector Zoe next. Thank you.
Chief Inspector Zoe, I do like that. Just to pick on a couple of the points that James touched on, if I may. The first thing is around the agility of the partnership space. Everybody reacted really, really quickly, and we are really confident now that we've got the local structures in place across the county to be able to react to these kinds of initiatives. The other thing that I would add is around the data. So just to add to the methodology that was around identifying some of those spaces, some of it was actually contextually around the types of businesses that were in some of those areas, which was why we ended up with Holt, as, if I'm honest, kind of for everybody felt a little bit of an anomaly. So when the data was run again, and when the data was then shared with partners, there was very much of that sense of, well, our data's telling us this, we only know what the public tell us, what do you think? And actually that was a really useful process, because some of those areas were slightly tweaked and moved around to make sure that we took into account not just the actual crime data.
Yeah, and that's helpful, because that information on the ground is going to lead you to Holt when you wouldn't expect to have to think about Holt. Any further comments, questions? Michael.
I did hear the word Fakenham mentioned, but I've got to say there's no problems in Fakenham generally. There's good police presence on a Friday and a Saturday when the pubs come out, and the only problem with Fakenham is the dangerous part of it, it's the muntjac deer. They're actually roaming round the streets, and I've had so many misses, and it's a problem everywhere. Muntjac deer can cause a lot of damage. I'm always meeting people who've just hit one. And
Michael, they're a non-native invasive species,
exactly,
and need dealing with outside of this meeting, but quite rightly, they are antisocial, because they'll eat anything. Thank you.
Yes, I know. They cause
damaged gardens, all sorts.
Going back to King's Lynn Regis, Tesco's car park, And I use Tesco's. I use the McDonald's there as well. Usually because I can get Wi-Fi and I tune in. I worked about 12:30 and 1 o'clock in the morning. And the only problem with that is, do you monitor Tesco's car park? Because it's where you can do your wheelies and try and get your radio up to the maximum strength. And it's quite dangerous. People try and get up speed as fast as they can. And it's actually quite dangerous. But the police do come and get their McDonald's. So I'm sure they do keep an eye on it. But it is a problem because Tesco's are always having an issue with, cars speeding.
So antisocial behaviour around motor vehicles, is that part of this initiative? I mean, that's
so
or is that the next generation of age that you're looking at?
It's not specifically part of this Safer Norfolk work. I mean, it can fit within that brand. There is an operation that I did reference, Operation Octane, which is our county-wide approach to vehicle-related antisocial behaviour. All of our district councils have worked collaboratively to develop public space protection orders that cover nuisance vehicle use across Norfolk. So that gives both police and district councils a way to work together to directly respond to wheelies in Tesco's car park and antisocial behaviourness around McDonald's. So, but absolutely, in all seriousness, yes, yeah, there is a really robust response. The outcomes of that, I don't have them to my head, but I know that the outcomes of that project have been reductions in the level of vehicle-related antisocial behaviour county-wide, and that the once someone has been, it's kind of a tiered approach to kind of people who breach the PSPO. So that it's very rare that someone will go through all of the, I think it's 3 tiers of the public of the kind of enforcement response to that public space protection order. So there's a really strong response in that area, and it is something that we promote comms wise with police colleagues. But yeah.
Right. Thank you very much. I think as we move to conclusion, asked the partnership, are there any recommendations that you, to the panel, sorry, any recommendations you'd like to make to the partnership? From the chair, I would suggest that it'll be good to see, in terms of facts and figures, whether, what difference this has made. And obviously you can only compare if you carry on and do. And I look forward to results from the winter programme as well. Probably the types of things probably change with the season, but I know I've spent time out and about with the local force on Halloween, making sure that the people getting scared were part of the fun and not being intimidated. So that's this seasonal time of the year that type of thing has to be thought about too. Any matters that we require any more information on from the report? A full report, I would say, but don't think so. No. In which case, we are to note the report and presume we're in all agreement with the report as presented and that it carries on its journey. Thank you very much indeed, Liam. Thank you very much, Chief Inspector Zoe. I'll get that one in again. And Gavin. Excellent. Which moves us on to page 64 now. And that is the item on community cohesion. And I'd just like to remind members of the panel, obviously, that we mustn't inadvertently speak about individual, perhaps groups or issues, and possibly we don't want to jeopardise ongoing operations, police-wise or otherwise. So we have to be a little bit minded of that. But this is a general report on community cohesion within Norfolk. As I said, it starts on page 94 and... 64. Sorry, did I say 64 or 94? I said 64 the first time, didn't I? No, you said 94. Did I? And it's 64. Oh, it is 64. I don't know. I've got it right in front of me. I don't know what's wrong with me. Sorry. Good job I got a vice chairman. Keep an eye on me. So, who's introducing this? Back to you again, Liam, is it? Thank you.
Back to me, yes. So This paper covers off our community safety partnership priority area around community cohesion. So we have a priority which is all around working with our communities to prevent violence and extremism and build community cohesion. This paper focuses solely on the community cohesion aspect of that. So just to be really clear, community cohesion is about ensuring people from all backgrounds live, work and learn together with mutual respect. Norfolk is a county that has many faiths, a slightly older population than the national average, is ethnically diverse, and we have kind of an aspect of all protected characteristics across our community. Norfolk and nationally, there have been some challenges recently to delivering, ensuring community cohesion. So, not least protests related to asylum. In addition, there have been quite widespread debates around national identity, and there's been an impact upon community cohesion around international affairs that have kind of heightened tensions across Norfolk and nationally. All of this has been politically quite high profile. So I think it's been categorized or characterized by kind of a lot of emotive language, sometimes inflammatory, and mis and disinformation that's been shared, often via social media. So across Norfolk, there's a lot of other challenges that feed into this. So inequality, cost of living, trust in institutions, mental health, all have factors to play in levels of community cohesion that we have. And just to be really clear, that in Norfolk we have included hate crime as within this priority area. It really fits solely within it, and that some of the national and local data that we've looked at tells us that hate crimes haven't been increasing over the past year, which might be counterintuitive. Hate crime is one of the most underreported crimes that there are. So whilst it's not increasing, it's kind of a measure of what's being reported to the police rather than a measure of the instances of hate crime. So that's kind of an important thing to bear in mind when you hear those kind of statistics. What's on the horizon in this space? So the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government, we can never get that acronym right, but they are developing national guidance for local authorities, for community safety partnerships to respond to and develop community cohesion, something that we're really keen to receive and we'll welcome when it's available. In addition, what is our partnership doing in response to this? So we've set to this panel before that we have a partnership plan that focuses on 4 kind of delivery lines. So we look at providing greater awareness to our communities, awareness raising messages about key issues. We look at upskilling our professionals. We look at ensuring that we have the best data and support for our strategic response to community safety issues, and then we look to make sure that there are interventions in place to respond to community safety issues. So I'm just going to run through some of the things that we're doing directly in response to community cohesion that under those kind of headings. So around awareness, we've been developing and we have already got some assets that we use to promote the services that we have available to victims of crime. So we have the Norfolk and Suffolk Victim Care Service, which is the biggest provider of support to victims of crime in Norfolk. In addition, we provide information on all sorts of other organisations that provide support to specific community groups who might be affected. We provide information on how to report in community tensions to the community, and we've also made sure that our community safety partnership webpage has the up-to-date and informed information about community cohesion and hate crime. So it's accessible to the public. They know what resources they can access. there's a link included to those pages within the report. In terms of skills and knowledge for professionals, the police have developed the Stop Hate in Norfolk programme, which is a third-party reporting process that is growing in its take-up across Norfolk, and our partnership is embracing that process to ensure that people who want to report hate crime can be supported to do so. The good thing about that is it provides training to staff as well in what hate crime is, and it spreads that awareness across professional networks. Again, our webpage is up to date with that supports our professionals working in that space. The Community Safety Partnership team attends the SIGSI, which is, actually I cannot remember for the life of me what it stands for, but it's essentially a local government association organised a partnership meeting where you can get the most up-to-date information on community cohesion. We attend that and we make sure that the messages that need to be communicated to our partnership are done so. That is done so. And then finally, in that priority area, the Norfolk Constabulary worked in partnership to develop a hate crime conference, which took place last week, inviting along partners across the public sector to hear more about hate crime in Norfolk, understand more about community cohesion, but really crucially, it was designed in such a way that it gathered information from our partners to understand some of the key issues that we're facing when we're responding to community cohesion related issues, and then also that information is going to kind of feed into our strategic partnership to ensure that we can respond to it. So it gives us a lot of opportunities to respond to community cohesion issues. I just wanted to flag as well that through this partnership, we've recently advertised some training that's available to elected members for mis and disinformation. Hope that you guys have been able to see that and access it. So our third priority is around data. We have a community tensions monitoring tool, which is again coordinated by the police. It's really robust. It's really well bought into by our partners, and the comments that the police receive back about how effective it is really fantastic. It gives us information about those issues that are being faced in the community. We've already heard a little bit about the Safer Norfolk survey, but that's a tool that we're using in this space to improve our data. We use police hate crime data to inform our responses too. And finally, we are working with the Belong network. So the Belong are the national experts in relation to community cohesion. We recently, our most recent community safety partnership meeting, resolved to commission Belong to provide direct support to our partnership to develop its response to community cohesion. So we've got a lot of kind of checking whether the things that we're doing can be improved in any area. So we're getting that best practice guidance to move us forward as a partnership. Finally, priority 4, interventions that we've put in place. So we've talked about policing the protests. There was a really strong and well thought through and designed approach to policing local protests. In addition, we've looked at the young people within the context of community cohesion. Often, these are areas where a lot of reports are coming from, both as victims and perpetrators, and it's also kind of a next generation approach. So the police have looked to commission POLED, and the county council looked to push hate crime or prejudice related lessons within schools. So there's a lot of intervention within that space. And the final things that I was gonna flag with some of in the prevent space. So we've looked at the channel process, AI related workshops for professionals to inform process, and a oversubscribed conference taking place in a few weeks' time on young people and radicalisation. So there's an overview for you. Whistle stop tour.
Absolutely, thank you, Liam. It's one of these things that if the crime related to community cohesion, hate crime, etc., is underreported, people don't want to have the bother of making a fuss. We've got to have other ways of getting under the surface and find out what's actually going on, because if the crimes aren't being reported, as a county, we need to know what's actually going on. And from what you're saying, the use of AI could be a helpful tool in that, because it can analyse things a lot quicker than humans can. So absolutely. Committee members, any comments, questions regarding the report on community cohesion? Jade, please. Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Chair. I'm really pleased to see all the positive engagement with schools around the preventative work. But after seeing recent reporting of I think it was 55% increase of hate and racist incidents within our NHS, which was awful to actually see. Is there any plans or thoughts about further engagement with this kind of organisation? I know it's not on its own in regards to this kind of culture where, even though they have the posters up that says if you see it, report it, it's kind of got to the point where it's accepted as norm of the job. I unfortunately myself have seen incidents happen and people have shrugged it off and not encouraged somebody to report it or check in afterwards to see how they feel because of the heat of the moment. And obviously it's quite a sort of fast-paced environment, especially if you're somewhere like A&E, you just have to move on to the next thing. So I was just wondering if this was on your radar as a place to engage. And then also, if I can just add to that, is there anything the partnership's going to do to make sure that marginalised groups are involved in any initiatives and the delivery of them as well?
Yes. So the NHS, everyone has the right to come to work and not feel that they're going to be discriminated against or abused. So absolutely, it's on our radar. It's something that the police have previously worked directly with NHS trusts to give kind of direction about how to respond to such incidents. To my knowledge, I believe that there's a lot of those healthcare trusts have put in place some policies that have really strengthened their approach in terms of reporting and support that they can give to their staff. So I hope that those kind of interventions are leading to things like more reporting is kind of what you'd hope to be able to kind of deduce from that. But I think that it is something that we can continue to work with our health colleagues closely on. Did you want to come in on that one at all?
Yeah, the only thing I would add is obviously, is we do have a dedicated liaison for the hospitals, and the other thing is obviously we monitor tensions when there is a problem. They are always one of the partners that we go to and just check in and just again raise that awareness with them that we're here for them to report.
Yeah, the impact to you.
Yeah. The other point you raised was marginalised groups. Within our strategic group, we have representation of some of those marginalised groups, particularly the faith sector. We're really keen to make sure that they're a part of our strategic work, and they support us to make sure that our messages are being communicated in that space. There are more organisations that we would obviously work directly with to kind of communicate. There are a lot of groups we'd want to target with kind of some of the information that we'd want to share. We do already reach out to them. Any initiatives that we'd look to develop in the future are absolutely going to include a kind of engagement with marginalised groups or groups that represent marginalised groups.
Can I ask how you reach out to them?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have working relationships with many of those, particularly localized groups. So some of the asylum resettlement groups we have direct relationships with, particularly via police's equalities and diversity team. So yeah, it's that aspect to it. If there's a specific issue that affects those groups, we would work directly with those groups as well. So yeah.
Thanks very much. I've got Sue next, please. Councillor Catchpole.
Thank you, Chair. I'm wondering if there's going to be a way of people reporting such things out anonymously. I think I'm right in saying that the Crime Stoppers system can be used to report anonymously, and I could imagine if the person on the receiving end of abuse would probably want to do that. It's just what is the new mechanism going forward that the Crime Commissioner mentioned this morning? Was it something's voice, people's voice or something? The new system for reporting, will that be able to be reported anonymously as well?
I will start. So our website talks about some of the ways that you can report anonymously. The Stop Hate in Norfolk process kind of encourages people to provide identifiable information, because it supports with the and Zoe, please correct me if I'm wrong, but it supports with the kind of the police's processes. So it's better to have that information if they can have it. But yes, that's it really. That there is availability, but it's much more preferential to be able to report with someone's kind of identifiable information.
And Zoe, you want to come in as well, please?
Yeah, if I can. So obviously within that network, we have people within that network, don't we? And actually we've got a number of sort of capable guardians who are within those different support groups that will come to us if there's a problem, if that makes sense. We were not going to name things in here, but I can think of certainly very recently where a support group reached out to us where those people within that group didn't feel as though they could report things, because obviously some of it again is down to feelings of safety rather than being a specific crime, and we were very successful in pulling together a group in order to share information to support those groups. Does that make sense? So not everything is as formal as coming in and being reported by a crime. Some of it is, just to Liam's point, you know, our engagement officers just like know everybody, and you know, you would kind of hope, because they're advertised on the websites, that actually people feel as though they can come into them.
Thank you. Michael?
Mark has probably heard this before.
You ready?
When I was with the NSFT, or it was before that, I was Kingston and Wisbech hospitals, I used to take one of the young New Start police out every week. One was Joe Parrott, who's now chief.
I was going to say, don't necessarily talk about individuals, Michael.
No, was she chief constable?
Oh well, very good.
I hope she still is. And they sort of we sort of introduce them into sort of mental health issues. Whether if you see somebody jumping on top of a car, has he a mental health issue, or is he just plain bad? So do your new starts get a good training in what they might see in the community? Do they get a good training? I mean, they used to.
Yes, is the short answer. And that training is done with partners as well. So they don't just get the training when they come in. There is very much that ongoing training. So we have a dedicated mental health team who have just finished one round of training, because all officers now have training days where we can give certain inputs rather than having to do the online stuff, which we all like. So the short answer is yes. There is a more complicated answer, but it's probably not the forum to go into massive detail.
Michael, your mic is not on. And plus, I think we need to move on. Thank you.
Yes, have you had a good training?
I've had some fantastic training. Absolutely, yes. Yeah, we have a really robust training packages for us. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for asking. Right. Just one of the points that was made earlier, I mean, a specific mention of the NHS and that, you know, abuse of staff is not accepted there. I think anybody in a public-facing role, whatever it might be, you know, that's relevant. So it's not just the NHS as a, you know, fairly major employer, very major employer in terms of Norfolk, with loads of public-facing staff. But actually, retail has got lots of public-facing staff, and I would urge, you know, and transport, public-facing staff, and again, you know, I'd urge anybody to report, because the level of crime won't have gone up. It'll be the level of reporting that's gone up, and if we do feel that we're missing reports because it's not getting reported, and there's an underlying problem out there, you know, as a community of Norfolk, you know, we need to know that those problems are being reported. So urge people to report, and if they have to do it, feel they have to do it anonymously via Crime Stoppers, there's a route. But, you know, I think far better if people can, you know, make others accountable for what they're doing, which is wrong. And that's the, and we can only do that if we know how big the picture is and how big the problem is, because resources get allocated, let's face it, on the size of the problem. So under-reporting is going to be an issue here. District officers, do you have anything you wish to add on the community cohesion report? James is coming in.
Yeah, happy to come in. I think, yeah, I think there's a lot of work that goes on, as you say, into those groups. Obviously, within the districts, we all have those links into those hard-to-reach groups that won't engage with both police, partnerships and other colleagues. So and that voluntary group. So I think most authorities will have that ability to get into those local networks as well as wider the county network. So I think there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes in relation to community cohesion, and I think we get a lot of information through which we share with partners should we feel there is a position where that is going wrong in one way or another, or they're feeling a particular feeling within that group at that time. So I think there is a lot of work happening right across the county at a really local level, which informs some of this work. And as I say, just picking up on the training, I think over the years, this has got so much better for all partners. So that's that professional curiosity, that understanding, eyes and ears out there from all different agencies, see what's actually going on the ground. So I think if something was to pop up, we'd notice it quite quickly and share it really quickly. So I think that's really positive.
It's great that we've got a Norfolk-wide network that deals with this, because intelligence in, you know, district level right down to village levels, you know, you need to get into the mix of where the communities are, because unlike other parts of the country, you know, our various minorities are spread out wide, you know, rural areas, etc. And a note within the report, I mean, you make reference to irrespective of age, disability, sex, gender, assignment, etc. So all of the protected characteristics are listed there. Community cohesion, people think about race, but actually it's not just race. You know, it could be disabled people getting abused or whatever. So it's most important that all groups that you know are potentially underreported, they let this stuff be known so that it can be dealt with. So we have, as a panel, to ask, are there any additional recommendations we would want to make to the partnership? And I don't know that there are anything specific, but suffice to say, keep up the good work on community cohesion, because it's going to be an ongoing thing. And are there any matters that we require additional information on? I don't think there is. No. In which case, thank you very much for the information. Thank you those that responded with answers. That item is duly noted, and that moves us on. Thank you to our work programme, page 74. I won't add random 30 numbers on it or anything. I'll try and do the right number. 74 is the forward work programme. Becky, do you want to say anything about the forward work programme?
Yeah, thank you.
Please.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, so members will note that obviously we've January's meeting at present is looking light. And then we've got some other items which have previously been programmed in. So I think the Chair and I were going to suggest that we have a brief catch-up just after the meeting to look at the forward work programme to see if we can bring some items to the next meeting, unless obviously members have any suggestions here and now as we discuss the item. Thank you, Chair.
So, members, any suggestions or items of agenda you would like for consideration, failing which I might just ask you to stay back for a few minutes afterwards, because sometimes it's better to discuss not on a public meeting as to what you want to include. We don't set hairs running by a suggestion put forward. If that's okay with everyone, I won't keep you too long, I promise. Otherwise, it is to note that our next scheduled meeting is due for January the 19th, pending some items for the agenda, failing which the next meeting date is the 27th of April 2026. So as I said at the last meeting, season's greetings and see you next year. Thank you all for your attendance, and thank you officers especially for your input. Thank you.